These families have already suffered enough, and they should never feel ignored or victimized by their own government. Diane Foley, whose son Jim was killed by ISIL last year, said, "As Americans, we can do better." I totally agree. We must do better. And that's why I ordered a comprehensive review of our hostage policy.
One of the biggest misconceptions about the American government's policy of not negotiating with terrorists for the release of hostages is the wording. The White House insisting our policy is no concessions and says nothing about never talking. Now, some would argue either way, it's the wrong move to take with killers holding American lives for ransom. The president thought otherwise in stating his new policy of not only communicating with these cretins, but even allowing the families a closer tie to the negotiations. Our guest was a prisoner of war in the Libyan Civil War in 2011, a war correspondent, founder and CEO of Sons of Liberty International, who understands the modern hostage dynamic. Let's welcome Matthew VanDyke back to the Hard Line. Matthew, it's a pleasure to have you back on the show, and I know that you have been watching this for quite some time, and so many people have been waiting for this to change. But the big question is it simply too late? Should this have been done and this failure have been rectified a long time ago?
It certainly should have. The family of James Foley and the other families of hostages held by ISIS have not been treated particularly well by the government. And I know in my own family's case, when I was a prisoner of war in Libya, the State Department made my mother wait out in the rain because she didn't have an appointment. So this is a problem that needed to be addressed a long time ago, and fortunately, at least now it will be.
What was the thinking, in your opinion, that kept us there for so long? And again, as I pointed out just in the lead-in here a few moments ago, there's this policy of not talking with, not negotiating with, but they say, wait a minute, no, it's actually not communicating with. The wording here is so fuzzy that has to be a problem that really should never have even gotten involved in this.
Right. I mean, the U.S. policy with hostages has always been complex. On the one hand, it has been illegal for families to make payments, but no family's ever been prosecuted for that. And some families were told they risked prosecution if they tried to negotiate with hostage takers, and some were told that they wouldn't face prosecution. So the policy's been kind of a mix and match as they went, how it was applied. And really, at fault, I think, is mostly bureaucracy. And the fact that, to the average employee who's tasked with this at the State Department, these families are a file and a case, and they don't have the empathy or the level of human interaction that they need to be having with families.
Isn't it fair to say that this is really for show because, in your case, the Folies cases, the other families who were just so desperate to get their loved ones back, that it didn't make a difference what the government said or did? They were going to go ahead and do whatever they needed to do in order to get their friends and their family back.
Yes, that's true. I'm sure any family would not be at all intimidated by a risk of prosecution if they're trying to get their loved one back. But at the same time, the families don't need the added stress of having to worry about that at all. It's disgraceful that the Foley family was ever even told that they risked prosecution for trying to negotiate for the release of Jim.
Do you think, I have to interrupt because I want to make sure I get everything in here. Do you think this will lead to an increase in kidnappings, as some people fear?
No, I certainly don't. Groups like ISIS have been kidnapping Americans for a long time, and they'll continue to regardless.
Let me do this about the 90 seconds or so that I had left. I do want to make sure to point out that you are doing a lot of work training a Christian army to fight ISIS at this moment. How's that going?
It's going very well. We recently completed leadership training for one of the Christian militias. Before that, we had trained a battalion of 330 of them to get them ready to defend Christian lands and take the fight against ISIS. And we're providing all the training for free. We're giving the public an opportunity to help by going to sonsoflibertyinternational.com and making a financial contribution to actually have a tangible effect on the ground in this conflict.
Matt, do you think that they are ready and they are willing? Because so many times we talk about the desire to protect themselves and the willingness to go into battle. Do you see that from these people you're training?
The people that we're training, the Assyrian community in Iraq, the Christians in Iraq, are absolutely willing and able. They have very high morale. They take the training very seriously, and they're eager to fight. They're not like a lot of the rest of Iraq's population that are good runners but not good fighters. These men are different, and that's why we're working with them.
Are we then, as a government, missing the boat by not spending more time training these Christians who are just being eradicated on a minute-by-minute basis?
Absolutely. It makes no sense that the Obama administration is only training Muslim forces and completely ignoring the Christians. The Christians have shown themselves, in our experience, to be highly motivated, very capable, very enthusiastic about defending their lands, and I think they could have a powerful impact on the battlefield if they were just supported by our government.
I want to remind people again that you mentioned the website, and I want to go ahead and push it out there one more time. If anybody wants to find out what you're doing to be able to help the effort, sonsoflibertyinternational.com. And as you said, these are people that aren't going to run away at the very first moment. These are people who are dedicated to helping themselves, and these are the people that maybe we should be spending more time helping as well. Matt VanDyke, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show, my friend. We thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. It is frightening when you think about what goes on not only in those countries, but with those people who are desperately every day trying to protect themselves. Stay with us. The fastest 60 minutes in news continues.